That's my house and that food. She stole it from my fridge. Flashing red and blue lights washed over my driveway, painting the night in chaos. A blaring siren cut through the warm suburban air, followed by the slam of cruiser doors. Within seconds, I was surrounded. 3 cops, hands on their weapons, shouting commands as if I were a threat to national security. Hands where we can see them. Step away from the house. I stood frozen in my own front yard, holding a grocery bag in one hand and my phone in the other. I didn't move, didn't breathe. My pulse thundered in my ears, but my face stayed calm. Too calm, maybe. The kind of calm that makes officers even more suspicious. And then there was her, Karen, standing across the lawn in her Lululemon leggings and wine-stained hoodie, tears streaking down her cheeks like she'd just watched a murder. Her voice cracked as she wailed, "He broke into my house. He threatened me. I was just trying to get away." The officers glanced between us. Her, pale, crying, clutching her chest like a Lifetime movie actress. Me, dark-skinned, stone-faced, holding what looked like evidence. I met their eyes and spoke, voice low but clear. "That's my house. And that food? She stole it. From my fridge." Dead silence. The officer closest to me narrowed his eyes. "What did you say?" That's when I knew the story was about to spin out of control, but it didn't start here. Oh no, this wasn't sudden. This was calculated. This was personal. And this was only the explosion. Let me tell you how it all started 5 weeks earlier. Before she moved in, my street was quiet. Peaceful in that you can leave your garage open and no one will touch a thing kind of way. My neighbors weren't exactly chatty, but they nodded when we passed each other. We looked out for one another. It wasn't perfect, but it was. Then she arrived. It started with the sound of tires screeching against the curb. A shiny white BMW X5 pulled up to the house next door. Until then, a tidy vacant rental managed by a local property company. The door flew open, and out stepped a woman in oversized sunglasses, a designer tracksuit and a Bluetooth headset glued to her ear. She barked orders at the movers like she owned the entire block. Even before she introduced herself, I could tell trouble had just pulled up. I watched from my porch sipping coffee, trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. We all have rough moving days, right? But when our eyes met, she didn't wave or smile. She just stared. Then she turned back to the movers like I wasn't even there. A few hours later, I saw her walking up my driveway with an artificial smile pasted across her face. "Hi there, I'm Karen," she chirped, holding a tray of cookies that looked straight from a Costco plastic dome. I figured I'd introduce myself to the neighborhood. I thanked her and extended my hand, which she barely shook. Her eyes darted behind me, scanning my porch, my welcome mat, the faint smell of curry drifting from my kitchen. "You know," she said, wrinkling her nose slightly, "I'm super sensitive to smells. Do you people cook with those spices, It really lingers in the air," I blinked. "You people." "Oh," she laughed. "I didn't mean it like that. I just meant, well, you know, it's very ethnic." She smiled wider, like that made it okay. Right then I knew exactly what kind of neighbor I was dealing with, and trust me, cookies weren't going to fix it. It didn't take long for Karen to go from nosy to downright creepy. At first it was just glances, lingering too long when I left for work, standing by her window when I watered the plants, pretending to scroll through her phone while clearly watching me. I'd catch her eyes following every move, like she was waiting for me to slip up, or didn't trust me to breathe without her approval. Then it escalated. One morning I walked outside to find my trash bins tipped over, contents spilled across the driveway, ripped bags, food waste, broken glass. No raccoon could have done that much damage, and the neighbor across the street confirmed it. "Saw your new neighbor poking around out there last night, flashlight and everything." I asked Karen about it the next day. She smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, I just thought I heard a noise. Wanted to make sure everything was okay. You can't be too careful, you know?" "Right." A week later, my front lawn had 2 big muddy tire ruts across it. Someone had driven over the grass. I looked at the pattern. It matched the exact size of her SUV tires. But when I mentioned it, she laughed it off. Maybe it was delivery guys. Or kids. Not everything has to be so dramatic, you know. Then, things got personal. Groceries I left by the door while unloading. Gone. Amazon packages that were definitely marked as delivered. Vanished. A meal delivery I was looking forward to after work. Stolen right off my porch. It felt deliberate. Targeted. Couldn't prove anything, but I knew. Karen was behind it. The woman had a smugness about her that said, I can do what I want and no one's going to stop me. But I've never been one to make accusations without evidence. So I stopped complaining. Stopped reacting. And I went to the hardware store. Bought myself a discreet little Wi-Fi-enabled security camera. Tucked it above the front door, behind a hanging fern. Nothing flashy, just a tiny eye in the sky. I synced it to my phone. Set it to motion detection. Enabled night vision. Just in case. I had no idea then what I'd catch. But I knew I'd catch something. It happened on a Tuesday. I was stuck in traffic after work, half listening to a podcast and mindlessly scrolling through my phone. A notification popped up from the security camera app. Motion detected, back entryway. My stomach flipped. I pulled into a gas station, heart suddenly pounding. I tapped the alert and waited as the footage loaded over spotty cell signal, and when it finally did, I froze. The timestamp said 4:26 p.m. There she was. Karen, wearing yoga pants and a sweatshirt, hair tied in a messy bun, casually climbing through my back window. Not the door. The window. She landed with a little hop, brushed herself off like she did it every day, and walked straight to my kitchen. No hesitation, no concern, just walked in like she owned the place. I watched her open my fridge, scan the contents like a bored teenager, then start pulling out containers. First my homemade biryani, then a Tupperware full of grilled chicken and rice. She even took a bottle of orange juice and drank straight from it. Straight from it. My jaw clenched. She grabbed a grocery bag from under the sink, loaded the food into like it was hers, then left the same way she came. Out the damn window like some twisted reverse Santa Claus, except instead of leaving gifts, she was robbing me blind, and this wasn't a one-time thing. As I reviewed older clips, ones I hadn't thought to check, I saw her do it again and again. Different days, different outfits, always the same routine, like my house was her personal convenience store. I didn't scream. I didn't call the cops. I didn't even drive straight home. I sat there for 10 minutes processing the sheer audacity of it all. The entitlement, the smugness, the violation. Then I made a decision. I was going to confront her. Not yell, not accuse, just calmly show her. The footage. Let her dig her own grave. She thought she was playing games. She had no idea who she was dealing with. I waited until the next morning. I wanted a clear head and daylight on my side. Besides, the last thing I needed was for her to twist the story into a nighttime threat from the scary neighbor. I'd seen how she operated, playing. The victim wasn't just a reflex for her. It was an art. So I walked next door around 9 a.m., phone in hand, camera footage cued and paused right at the moment she slipped through my window like some middle-aged cat burglar. I rang the doorbell. She opened it almost immediately, like she'd been watching from the window. "Well, good morning," she said, voice laced with fake sweetness. "What can I do for you?" I held up my phone, calm as ever. "Karen, I just have a quick question. Do you want to explain why you were inside my house yesterday while I was at work?" Her smile faltered. Then she saw the screen. The footage. Played silently. Her climbing through the window, rifling through my fridge like it was her pantry, sipping my juice like she paid rent. Her expression changed, from surprise to anger, then to defiance. She laughed, a sharp, cold laugh, and crossed her arms. "Oh, please, this is what you're upset about. You left your window open. It looked suspicious. I thought maybe there was a gas leak or something." "A gas leak," I repeated flatly. "So you climbed through my window and stole my food?" "I didn't steal anything. I was making sure everything was okay, and maybe I took a snack or two. Big deal. You act like it's a crime." It is a crime, Karen. Her face darkened. You know what? I've had it with your attitude, always glaring at me, watching me like I'm some sort of criminal. I should have known you people would be difficult. There it was. The you people. Thinly veiled racism. Dropped like punctuation at the end of her rant. I'm done being harassed, she hissed. If you come onto my property again, I'll call the police. I blinked. You were in my house. I have video of it. I don't care. You come at me again. I'm filing a restraining order. This is harassment, intimidation. You're making me feel unsafe. I wanted to laugh. Instead, I nodded slowly, turned around and walked away. She thought she'd flipped the power dynamic. She thought her tears and lies could outmaneuver the truth. But I had the one thing she didn't. Receipts. And I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The next day, I worked from home. I had a feeling she'd be back. People like Karen don't understand boundaries. They only understand opportunities. And once they think they've gotten away with something, they get greedy, careless, entitled. So I waited. Around 2:15 p.m., I heard it. A faint click from the back window. Then the creak of a hinge. A soft thump as someone landed inside. I moved. Silently down the hallway, phone already recording. When I turned the corner, there she was. Again. Bent over in front of my fridge like she belonged there, rummaging through containers without a care in the world. She didn't even notice me. First, I cleared my throat. Karen jerked upright like she'd been shot. In one hand, she held my leftover stir-fry. In the other, my container of lemon bars. Karen, I said calmly, phone raised, camera focused. What are you doing in my house? Her eyes darted to the phone. Her mouth opened, but no words came out at first. Then she screamed, Why? Are you recording me? You broke in, again. I told you this was illegal. This is harassment, she shrieked, suddenly flustered. You can't film me like this in my own home. I blinked. Karen, this is my house. She panicked. She hurled the container of food at me. It exploded against my chest, hot noodles and sauce splattering my shirt. Then she dropped the lemon bars, turned, and bolted for the door. I didn't chase her. I didn't raise my voice. Just kept the camera rolling. She ran out the front door and across the lawn, pulling out her phone as she went. Within seconds, I heard her high-pitched, frantic voice carrying across the street. Help! Yes, I need police, right now. This man broke into my house and threatened me. He's aggressive. He came at me. I'm scared for my life, she sobbed, into the phone like she'd just survived an assault. I stood in the doorway, still recording as she collapsed on her lawn dramatically, clutching her chest, tears streaming. She looked like a bad community theater actress trying to win an Oscar. For White Woman in Peril. Within minutes, the flashing lights returned. 2 squad cars this time, sirens blaring, tires screeching. Officers jumped out, hands on weapons, barking orders. Step away from the house, hands where we can see them. I complied, slowly, deliberately. Phone still raised. Karen, now seated on the curb, pointed at me like I was the devil himself. That's him. He broke in. He attacked me. One officer approached me cautiously, hand resting on his holster. Sir, we've had a report of a break-in and assault. That's funny, I said, keeping my tone even. Because I have video of her breaking into my house. Again. I showed them the footage. First from the day before, then today's. Karen crawling through my window, opening my fridge, throwing food at me, running. The officers exchanged glances. The tension shifted. Karen's fake sob slowed as she realized the tide was turning. The lead officer looked at her. Ma'am, we're going to need you to step over here. And just like that, her act began to crumble. But this wasn't over. She had tried to weaponize the police. She tried to get me arrested, or worse. And now it was my turn to play the long game. I kept my hands visible, phone still recording in one hand, until the officer ordered, Drop the phone, hands behind your back. I did as I was told. The metal cuffs clicked around my wrists, tight, cold, humiliating. My shoulders tensed, but I kept my mouth shut. Karen was still wailing from the curb like an Oscar nominee, gasping out half-formed sentences between fake sobs. He broke in. I told him to leave. I was so scared. He was filming me. A small crowd had gathered across the street. Neighbors peeked through curtains and phones were raised. Recording, documenting. The neighborhood grapevine was already starting to buzz. I didn't fight the arrest. I didn't argue. I just kept saying one thing, over and over. Check the footage. The officer who cuffed me, Officer Daniels, was young, all sharp edges and suspicion. His partner, Officer Grant, was older, quieter, watching everything like he'd seen it all before. "Sir, if you have something to show us, now's the time," Grant finally said. "It's on the phone," I said calmly. "Security cam and personal video, everything's time-stamped, she's lying." Daniels retrieved the phone and handed it to Grant. I gave him the passcode. He scrolled, tapped, and then silence. The first clip. Karen climbing through the back window, smiling to herself like a raccoon that just found a buffet. The second, her raiding my fridge. The third, today, her turning, throwing food, running, and then making that 911 call right in front of my house. The smugness on Karen's face began to melt as she watched from the sidewalk, seeing the officer's expressions shift. "She's broken into my house multiple times," I said. "Stolen from me, lied to you, and now she's trying to frame me for a crime I didn't commit." Officer Grant looked up, then handed the phone to Daniels. They exchanged a brief, quiet conversation, and Daniels' posture changed. Less aggressive, more neutral, maybe even embarrassed. Karen stood up quickly. What are you doing? Don't listen to him, he's dangerous." But this time, no one rushed to comfort her. No one believed the act. Not anymore. Officer Daniels handed the phone back to Grant, his jaw tight. The tension in the air shifted palpably, like a storm cloud had suddenly lifted. Grant turned toward me, his voice calm but firm. "You said this happened more than once?" "Check the earlier timestamps," I said. "She's been doing this for weeks. I only confronted her yesterday." Daniels tapped through the footage again. The more they watched, the deeper the crease on his forehead became. Karen must have sensed it too. Her crocodile tears dried up. Instantly. "Wait, what are you doing? Are you seriously believing him over me? He's the one who came to my house. He threatened me." Grant didn't flinch. He turned to her with a look I hadn't seen all day. Skepticism. "Ma'am, the footage clearly shows you unlawfully entering his home, multiple times, through a window. You're seen removing property from the refrigerator. Then, on today's video, you're seen fleeing the home, calling 911 and providing a knowingly false report." Karen's face flushed crimson. No, I was checking on him. I thought something was wrong. I was trying to help." Daniels cut in, voice sharp. "No, ma'am. That's trespassing, theft, and filing a false police report. We're going to need you to stay right here." Her eyes darted around like a trapped animal. No, this is crazy. He's setting me up. You can't just take his side because he has videos." "Anyone can fake a video," Grant raised an eyebrow. "We'll let forensics and the DA decide that, but from what I'm seeing, it looks bad." Karen's composure shattered completely. She started screaming, shrill, incoherent, grasping for anything, racism, harassment, even menopause. It all tumbled out in a word salad of desperation, but no one was buying it. Daniels stepped away and spoke quietly into his radio. Karen turned on me one last time. "You think this makes you a hero? You think this is justice?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Because finally, she was the one being investigated. And the truth? It was all on tape. By the next morning, the footage was everywhere. Hadn't planned to post it myself. A neighbor across the street, one of the same people who had silently filmed the police lights flashing outside my home, had uploaded the video with the title, "Racist Karen Tries to Frame Neighbor After Stealing from His Fridge." It spread like wildfire. Within hours, it was picked up by local news, then regional outlets, then social media juggernauts, TikToks, Instagram Reels, a dozen YouTubers, breaking it down frame by frame like it was a crime documentary. Karen's voice screaming he broke in, while she was the one caught trespassing, became meme material. Her fake crying, set to music. Someone even auto-tuned it into a remix. I won't lie, I laughed. The fallout was immediate. By the end of the week, I learned Karen had been fired from her job. Real estate, of course. Turns out, trusted community. Specialist doesn't mix well with viral footage of burglary and racial profiling. Her employer issued a bland statement about upholding company values and conduct unbecoming. A week after that, she was gone. The HOA, which had welcomed her with open arms when she moved in, completely distanced themselves. Turns out, she was a renter, not an owner. The property management company wanted no part in the controversy. Lease terminated, eviction served. She packed up at night, head ducked, avoiding every glance and phone lens pointed her way. And as for the neighbors, the same ones who'd avoided me, who'd offered polite waves but never more. They started stopping by. Some brought casseroles. Some just said, "I'm sorry, I should have spoken up sooner." Turns out Karen had rubbed more people the wrong way than I realized. I wasn't the only one she'd harassed. I was just the one who caught her on tape. The dust has settled now, but I don't think I'll ever forget that feeling. The pit in my stomach when I first saw the flashing police lights outside my house. How one person's lie could have been enough to destroy everything I've worked for. All it takes is one false accusation, one malicious twist of truth, and you're fighting to stay afloat in a sea of suspicion. But what kept me afloat? The evidence, the calm, the truth. In a world that sometimes seems to thrive on chaos, it's oddly satisfying to know that I was able to outsmart someone who thought their privilege and manipulation would go unchecked. Karen thought she could play the system, but all she did was expose herself, and I let the truth do the rest. Now my life has returned to normal. The neighborhood feels quieter, more genuine, but I've learned to stay vigilant. I don't let my guard down easily anymore, no matter how friendly a neighbor might seem. I keep my fridge full these days, and my cameras rolling.